Welcome, everyone. We continue the Kart Rider Drift League tonight as we really narrow things down here for Preseason 2. My name is Wilcho, joined by Wolf, and we've got some great matches today. We got one team match and one solos match.
Yeah, so tonight we're going to find out who is going to join Live Sandbox in our Preseason 2 finals, as well as the final players to join our solo finals as well. So we will have two finals if you're new to KDL. There's a finals for Team League, and then there's a finals for the solo matches, the individual portion of the tournament. So we'll be finalizing both of the ends of those finals tonight. As if you take a look at our schedule, we are currently, in terms of teams here, down in the lower bracket.
Yes, the lower bracket finals. So one team moving down from the upper bracket finals, and then, of course, one moving on from the lower bracket semifinals. We started with 8 teams. We are now down to, that means 3 teams left. Live Sandbox moved on to the grand finals from the upper bracket finals, and of course a hefty prize pool waiting a lot of these teams, and you can already see, I mean, quite a difference from, you know, first to second to third place.
Yeah, definitely massive. As here is kind of how we got here. These are our postseason or playoff matches. So we did see the win for Live Sandbox yesterday, and then ROX, of course, was knocked down to the lower bracket finals with KWANGDONG. So KWANGDONG and ROX will be facing off. If KWANGDONG win tonight, we will have a rematch of the Preseason 1 finals. If ROX win, we'll have a completely different storyline.
Yeah, absolutely. And ROX Esports, of course, kind of making waves here in Preseason 2. They showed a decent amount of promise in Preseason 1, and then they came back so much stronger after a bit of a rebuild on their roster, and they finished first seed during the regular season. But now they're in this elimination match to try to get into the grand finals again.
Yeah, it is going to be a really exciting one because both these teams have been so good in speed. Talking about the race history of these two teams as well, you saw that last time they faced off against each other, it was insanely close. It was actually a Ding versus Cool ace match. It was a very close one, very exciting, but both speed and item actually went the full distance.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. We got the maximum number of maps available. We actually have a couple highlight clips from that round-robin match. Let's check out how it went down during league play between these two teams.
The dominant start here for KWANGDONGFREECS looked like, okay, as we expected, you know, when we were this early in the season, we're like, oh yeah, KWANGDONG is probably going to dominate here, even though ROX looked much improved, but it did end up going very back and forth. The early games of these speed tracks, though, very much KWANGDONG dominated.
Yeah, and we just saw, I mean, earlier on New York Tour and then here on Zigzag Timberland as well, just the sweeping coming in from SUNGBIN actually provided to be too much for ROX to deal with on a couple of these tracks. And then KWANGDONGFREECS, they always had these two members in the 1-2 spot to begin a lot of these tracks. Sure, later on you got a little bit of contention, but it came down to that, and then it went down to the ace match, right? After a full 5 tracks on item mode. Ding versus Cool, and what impressed me the most here is that Ding was able to put the pressure on a player like Cool, who actually won the solos last preseason. Yeah,
he really did, and Cool making some individual mistakes here as well, just uncharacteristic error here that ended up really costing it big, and while nearly catching up, makes a second one as well, as Ding just has such a massive lead here at this point in time. He's trying his best to catch up, but just not going to happen, as makes that same mistake there once again. But also interesting that it was Ding and not JJONG who came out. JJONG has been the ROX Tigers ace player. He is their speed ace, but they chose Ding and he was able to take it. We'll see if that ends up happening again. With how close they played last time, I'd say there's a good chance.
Yeah, I mean, we can see on the charts, there is clearly a reason that they're putting out Ding as this ace racer. I mean, he's the only one with an average rank below 3rd place, right? So that means he's guaranteed to always get a podium finish, basically, in these team speed matches. Now, World's not far behind, and what's interesting is actually only 1 player each from ROX and KDF in the top 10. However, overall team average, KWANGDONGFREECS is still averaging right below 4, whereas Seongnam ROX is a little bit behind that.
Yeah, you could see a lot of these teams have really been a little bit more on the side of like middle of the pack finishes and actually getting those points through 2 to 5. Whereas Aura, for example, famous for 1-2, you know, they didn't end up making postseason, but you see Luning and Hero are extremely high up here because they have that 1-2 so often, so their average rank is so low. But KWANGDONGFREECS, a little bit higher here than Seongnam ROX in terms of those speed statistics at the moment. And ROX, I think, really improved their item mode from Preseason 1. Preseason 1, their speed was great, but item mode was really a thorn in their side. You could take a look at which matches they did win in speed.
Yeah, and actually, if you kind of take a look here, I mean, ROX Esports, they just couldn't get over that hump of going against other pro teams, right? They're able to win against every other amateur team here in preseason 2. And, you know, not all of them that convincing either. Granted, you know, for instance, Sensation showed up big this time around here in preseason 2. But then, you know, even in the main stage, again, when they go up against Live Sandbox, they weren't able to overcome that speed mode against Live Sandbox or Kwangdong Freaks.
Yeah, both of them, though, were played very close, right? And it's very critical that the remaining opponents they have are Kwangdong Freaks, and then if they win, Live Sandbox, right? So they will have to conquer the demons they failed to defeat on their way to where we are here in the losers final right now. So I feel like that story is really cool in that they have a second opportunity for both teams potentially, but it has to start with the win over Kwangdong tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, for Seongnam ROX, if they can overcome the team speed mode, I mean, that's already a great start. Because then, even if you go to an ace mode, I mean, both teams are fairly confident. So I think that's, you know, it's nothing to be scared of for either team. But obviously, Seongnam ROX would be the one who's kind of in motion to get that comeback. And now, this is what happened yesterday as we go into the playoffs here. Both of these teams played other opponents. Of course, Kwangdong Freaks against Sensation, Seongnam ROX against Live Sandbox. They both actually first picked Desert Construction Chaos.
Yeah, Desert Construction Chaos has been really highly picked actually by a lot of our teams here in postseason so far, and we're seeing it rocket up to being the most common speed track, and I expect that regardless of bans here, because I don't think either team will ban this track, it will be in first rotation. Weirdly, I guess if you have pick priority, maybe you don't pick it because you know your opponent is likely going to pick it. So because they both love it so much, we'll have to see how that goes out. But I think that before those bans come through, I think this will definitely be locked in.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one just because this track, there's, as the name implies, there's actually just so much chaos waiting to happen in that construction area and the scaffolding towards the later part of the track. And even the greatest teams, right, as you're going through these 90-degree turns, I mean, it's literally about, okay, who's ahead, and then do I take the risk to try to overtake or not? Are they going to stop? There's a lot of things in play. So, like you said, there's definitely some mind games to be played here in the draft.
Yeah, perfect win for Kwangdong as well on theirs. As for item mode, neither team was able to take a single round, a single track here. Notice the tracks also a bit of an overlap here in terms of Pharaoh's Pass and Mine Magma Cavern, the tracks that were played. So both teams really struggling here. So I think speed mode is going to be so critical. If you can win speed mode, you know, worst case scenario, you have that ace match in your back pocket that if you are able to win that, you'll advance to the finals. As item mode, I mean, it really could go either way tonight for both of these teams. And I feel like it wasn't that neither of these teams are good at item mode, it's just that their opponents were actually much stronger on the day.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. And I think that's something that we can take away. Obviously, they're now eliminated, but Sensation actually showed up big in item mode this preseason too. And that's the interesting thing about this matchup. I mean, both of them, if you had them choose, they would both want to choose speed mode as their strong suit. Item mode, like you said, Wolf, they're not bad, but they're also not that confident in that mode. And so we'll have to see. And then if it goes down to the ace match, I mean, both of these teams have players that they would happily put out for the 1v1.
Yeah, JJONG and World in particular, this is the best ace match player chosen by the team. So the teams actually voted to see which ace player, you know, they've actually, like, whichever one they think is the strongest. And World is number 1, JJONG is number 2. They both have 6 wins, a piece. So very impressive stuff. As mentioned, it was actually cool versus Ding last time they did face off against each other, so bit of an unusual lineup there that time around. But I think if we do go to Ace tonight, it'll be JJONG versus World.
Yeah, I think that's very likely. And I gotta imagine the only reason JJONG was perhaps voted number 2 is because he wasn't actually submitted as that ace racer that much here in preseason 2. Ding given that chance a lot more and actually proving his weight absolutely. Whereas World has consistently been the go-to choice, and then some days, some tracks, we saw Kwangdong Freaks putting out a couple other players.
Yeah, I mean, notice some of the players as well beaten by World. Insu twice, Hojun, NEAL. You know, I mean, World's records in ace matches are arguably more impressive, and this is, of course, across both preseasons. But also the fact of the matter is, too, like, if you're bringing Kwangdong to an ace match, especially in preseason 1, you're going to be a strong team. You're going to have a strong ace player, whereas ROX, still very successful was JJONG, but they were so reliant on him, actually, because they weren't able to dominate as much in the past.
Yeah, and we're actually taking a look at our live viewer predictions, and so far, quite heavily for Kwangdong Freaks. Now, how do you feel about this? Because I've got some thoughts on this ratio here.
Yeah, to me, I feel like it should be much closer. I think in some aspects, it's going to be fans who are just supporting Kwangdong because they have the longer history and the more successful history in Kart Rider and now also in Kart Rider Drift. But I feel like this one could go either way, and I think Kwangdong have been slipping a little bit towards the end of the season.
Now, this I can get much more beyond. I agree with you, right, that I think it should be a lot closer. So the participating teams in Preseason 2 voted so far, and we're split 3-3. Liv Sandbox already in the grand finals saying, okay, we just raced against ROX. We think they're stronger than Guangdong. Maybe rubbing a little salt against Guangdong Freaks as well. But what I'm interested in is these three teams are predicting it's going to be an ace match win if ROX gets there. However, a lot of teams saying if Guangdong Freaks win, it could be a clean 2-0.
Yeah, and it's bold as well to think that World would be beaten by JJONG if that is going to be the matchup as well in the ace match, because for me, I feel like if ROX wins it, it's actually a 2-0, and I worry for them in the ace match, right? Like,
okay.
I think saying it's an ace match win is a way of saying it's going to be a close match.
Sure.
But I do think that if it goes to ace, I think the experience of the Kwangdong Freaks roster, all of them, is just stronger in that 1v1, but we will see.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, we are getting ready for our team match lower bracket finals. One team will move on to the grand finals. One team will be eliminated from Preseason 2, and our first team on stage is going to be Seongnam ROX Esports.
A team that has outdone expectations, made some massive improvements since Preseason 1. And like Aura in Preseason 1, they're now the underdogs to potentially make it to the finals here in this losers bracket finals. And, you know, Ox wasn't able to do it last time around, or Aura, excuse me, wasn't able to do it last time around. Kwangdong Freaks, this is going to be a very big test for them as they are in the lower bracket here. I think a lot of people are surprised because they're the defending champions, but they've got the chance to get that back-to-back title. It starts here tonight.
Yeah, what a way that would be for them to start their KDL career, right? In Kartrider Drift, Kartrider comes out with a new game. You win the first preseason. You even have Cool winning the solo matches as well. And then in Preseason 2, if you can win back-to-back, that just puts such a high reputation on you as you get ready for the regular season. However, a lot of the consensus is they haven't looked as dominant as Preseason 1.
They really haven't, and it's just small things, right? And in an extremely competitive league, especially as we move into Preseason 2 where it's more competitive, small errors and, you know, bad condition on the day, bad form on the day matters a lot, especially in postseason. As here are the stats here for ROX. To mention the stats for Ding, he is #1 in average speed rank. He's first place here, and that is carrying a lot of the weight. If you look at the rest of his squad here, down in 24th, 21st here, Duzzi and Spell. So it's really been him and JJONG who have been able to carry this team in speed.
Yeah, and I think something we want to touch upon as we continue to look at these stats is this probably means you don't have to worry about Ding so much, but you do have to worry about that middle of the pack. And of course, Seongnam ROX just saying, all right, please focus, right? Get ready for this match. Just a nice little short message over to their opponents. But I think it's them that needs to focus, right? Ding's always been able to get into that first, you know, or at least second place. But the rest of your team has to get ready for that 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, the other thing too is that these starts for Kwangdong are so fantastic, and I think that's what puts Kwangdong and Liv Sandbox ahead of other teams in speed in particular. And also Aura, I think, actually is on this list even though they're not in preseason. Their starts are fantastic, and then you have to battle your way through. So Ding, his starts often stronger than the rest of his team, but he's going to be fighting against Spear. Oftentimes SUNGBIN, who's sweeping, has been fantastic this season. So you do have to worry about ROX depending on how these first few tracks go. We meet again.
All right, and it's the last match. Let's play without regrets. I mean, surely both teams looking to play their hearts out. After this, the preseasons will wrap up, and we'll all have to get ready for the regular season. And sure, that's where it's really going to start counting towards your careers. However, you want to get ready for it with a start, you know, kind of a nice little applause on your back, right? And say, okay, we showed our best. We're getting ready. We are one of the strongest teams going to regular season. Now, of course, in the playoffs, we do the track draft live on stage. So let's take a look at what the first pick is going to be here from Seongnam ROX.
So there's some mind games here in Desert Construction Chaos because if you first pick it here, then you don't actually get a prio pick. So you're like, okay, well, if I don't pick it, then you're probably going to have to pick it here. Neither of us are going to ban it. So even though the expectation is since they both drafted it last time, it's not going to get picked here, actually. And ROX are going to go for Mine 3 shortcuts, which they actually have a perfect win rate on thus far this season.
Yeah, I like it. I agree with exactly what you said. I mean, maybe even leave Construction Chaos for that. Okay, Kwangdong, I was going to say leave it for round 7, but Kwangdong says, no, we're just that confident. Of course, yesterday against Sensation, they finished 1, 2, 3, 4 with a perfect win. I guess they're just, you know, they have that 100% win rate saying, okay, we want to tie things up 1-1 right away. Should we lose round 1?
Yeah. See what these bans are going to be. We did see Terracotta Twister get picked up. A lot of teams not liking that this season. I think it's just been a really tough one. It's kind of weeded out some of our weaker teams versus stronger teams. I think the stronger teams really love playing on it. So would not be surprised to see that one potentially banned here by ROX because it's a really tough one to catch up on if you fall behind. And I say early game, but I really mean the first lap and the first half of the first lap is so strong for KWANGDONGFREECS.
All right, well, running the clock down quite a bit. KWANGDONGFREECS is really thinking this through. Okay, that one's actually not surprising, right? I mean, Winding Slopes has always played KWANGDONGFREECS. Despite how good they are at speed, that's the one track where mistakes have happened. They just haven't been able to keep the lead, so I'm glad to see them ban it out. Yeah.
Let's see if that Terracotta Twister ban comes through here potentially for the side of ROX. They did go for their second pick, WKC Brazil, last time around. And they also picked Terracotta, so even though it's a track that I feel like you probably want to ban against Kwangdong, maybe they feel like they're very confident on it and they are going to leave that one open. There's still, of course, 2 more bans to be played after this one, so you don't have to lock that one in right now if that's going to be the game plan here. A lot of discussion after this Winding Slopes ban comes through, but it will be Village Boomhill Tunnel.
Okay. All right. I mean, not one I believe they've banned at all, actually, so far here in Preseason 2. But, I mean, KWANGDONGFREECS, again, I mean, that's another one of those tracks where if you get the lead, you're easily able to keep it for the majority of the track. It's a one-lapper. It gets really narrow towards the end. So knowing that KWANGDONGFREECS works off of those great starts, I think that's got to be why they banned it out.
Yeah. Okay. There comes the Brazil circuit again here. Same pick order for ROX in that 3rd round. And then Glacier Extreme Stadium. This is another track that I really feel like the best of the best teams make so many fantastic plays. On those final hairpin turns, you have such an opportunity to prove you are the stronger team. And very confident here coming out of KWANGDONGFREECS to lock that one in. New York Rally will be banned. And if you're going to ban Terracotta Twister, which they did pick, actually, in round 5 in that series against Live Sandbox, it's going to have to be now. They took the loss on it as well against Live Sandbox, but actually it will be Japan Circuit instead.
Okay, yeah, they've toyed around with banning either Singapore Circuit or Japan Circuit, so 2 of the WKC tracks that were introduced here in Preseason 2. This time around, banning out the Japan Circuit, which, quite frankly, we haven't actually seen picked by KWANGDONGFREECS either. However, they're just going to say, we don't want to deal with it. We're confident in the rest of the maps. Going back to the Glacier Extreme Stadium pick, I mean, that's always been kind of that second pick for KWANGDONGFREECS, and here comes out the Terracotta Twister from ROX.
Yeah, they locked this one in. Now, it's really surprising to me as well, the win rate here for KWANGDONGFREECS is so low on this track, because I feel like it's a track that suits their playstyle entirely. Similar to Forest Zigzag Timberland, which actually they do have a perfect win rate on here, and it will be their lock-in. So one final pick now here for ROX, and Zigzag was their final pick against Live Sandbox, so that one's already locked in. We'll see what they're going to do this time around.
Yeah, curious to see out of the remaining.
Ooh, that's a rare one.
Wow. Okay. I mean, both of them, they haven't played it much, but, you know, just showing that they do have confidence on it. I believe maybe only played once on each side.
Yeah, I think both just are 1 and 0 on the pick because it's so rare.
Yeah, we don't see a lot of teams picking into it, quite frankly. But we do have ROX. ROX, when they played it, they didn't pick it. They actually won against their opponents. For KWANGDONGFREECS, they picked it confidently as a first pick, I believe, and they were able to get that victory. So if we get to round 7, this is going to be a very intense one. Factory Facility 5, known as one of the most difficult tracks here in Kartrider Drift.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear your thoughts, but for me, I look at this track list, and I think it slightly favors KWANGDONGFREECS. I think they have a lot of confident picks here. The Terracotta Twister, even though they have a weak win rate on it, I do like for them a lot. I guess we'll delve into it a little bit deeper because we do have to go through our item tracks as well.
Yeah, we'll have a chance to review the speed track and talk about that a bit more. But of course, going through all the drafts right away, and we're going to start on my Magma Cavern again. Both teams did pick this in their previous playoff matches, and both of them did suffer that loss.
Yeah, so yeah, that's another thing to keep in mind. The win rates for items going to be a little bit lower for both of these teams because they have been so speed dominant. But both of them, of course, having the 0-4, which will taint those records as well in that previous playoff round. ROX, we'll see what their choice is going to be. They went for Sphinx's Riddle in that series against Live Sandbox, and they will do it again. I expect we'll see bans here on Shark's Wake for example. Or I mean, this is just a track that players generally have liked to avoid. It doesn't have to be your first ban necessarily. I don't know if you want to waste it there because you also may have KWANGDONGFREECS looking to ban that one away as well. It's one of the maps or tracks rather that has the most variance because there's not a lot of terrain. It's just constant item flinging.
Yeah, so perhaps see that being avoided. Okay, Clock Tower Crossing going to be banned out here from ROX first. We have seen that being banned out yesterday as well, so clearly just not a track that they want to deal with. Meanwhile, banning out the London Knights. So that was picked by ROX Esports yesterday. They suffered that loss against Sandbox. However, KWANGDONGFREECS still saying we don't want to deal with it. That's one of those tracks where still things like the boost and the magnet can have a lot of value towards the end of that lap 3.
Oh, absolutely. It's kind of like preseason 1 meta track where you could play the old style a lot. Desert Pharaoh's Pass will come through here for KWANGDONGFREECS as their 3rd track pick here for round 3. Oh, the shocker, as both of these teams do like the desert tracks quite a bit. For ROX now, last time around they did pick that London Knight. As you were mentioning, it is banned, so we'll see a different track selection in this draft.
Yeah, so far, I mean, we're looking at 3 tracks that have a lot of narrow passageways, right? So those water bombs, things like that, the barriers can have a lot of impact. So even if you don't get something like the high-impact items like the lightning bolts, you have ways to overcome. It is going to be Factory Cogwheel Crush, another one where the attacking items can provide a lot of value.
Yeah, certainly a lot of chaos that can occur there. As we do have a few more of these. Okay, so Brody's Gloom, a track that can be very volatile. And then the last one that I think we could see banned here for KWANGDONG is Glacier Polar Halfpipe. Yeah, this one is another one that it's just both Factory, Brody's Gloom, and Glacier Polar Halfpipe are similar to London Knight in that sometimes the magnets get high value, sometimes you have that really crazy finish that's really hard to counterplay, and you don't want to lose your spot in the tournament over something like that.
Yeah. So, having those banned out, now just 3 picks remaining. KWANGDONGFREECS will continue with round 5 as they have item priority this time around. And Mushroom Cave's coming out.
Yeah, they did actually pick Shark's Wake, or was actually picked into them last time around, and they didn't ban it, so that one's still available. As far as Mushroom Caves is pretty tame track here. You know, it's a pretty basic one, but oftentimes because it's a little bit longer of a 3-lapper, it is about getting that tempo lead. We'll talk about some cart bodies and some builds later on in terms of where we are at acceleration. ROX, their final pick here for the item draft. See what it is going to be.
Yeah, not too many choices left, but it does look like
Motherload maybe.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the options. That's the next track that they've played the most out of the remaining tracks, right? They have played it 4 times, but okay, Shark's Wake wasn't banned, and they say, all right, let's take the fight to them. Now, both these teams, 50%. For ROX Esports, they played it twice so far, 1-1, and KWANGDONGFREECS, they're 2-2.
And it is going to be Motherload to close things out here, a track that both teams are pretty good at. The Shark's Wake, interesting because it was picked by Sensation. They didn't have to play it because they beat KWANGDONG 4-0 in item. So I am curious to see where the headspace is at here for KWANGDONGFREECS moving into that Shark's Wake track. I wouldn't say as much as I would say on the previous track list, which I do think favors KWANGDONG, that this item track list favors either team very strongly, whereas for speed, we'll take a look at this one. I really like this list here. Desert Construction Chaos, fantastic performance for KWANGDONGFREECS. Glacier Extreme Stadium, I think the clutch plays that we've seen from this roster on this track so many times are really, really strong. And then Terracotta Twister, I think you really have to have a strong start on that track, and KWANGDONGFREECS has been, arguably in my mind, the best at starts here off the gates.
Yeah, I don't know if I completely quite agree. I definitely see where you're coming from. I think for me, I'm keeping my eye on that track you just mentioned, Terracotta Twister, because if KWANGDONGFREECS can get that super start that they often do, and they're so far ahead, sure, absolutely, they can even get the 1-2 finish. However, if it's relatively close, this is another track where KWANGDONGFREECS, they've kind of stumbled in the indoor area. Some of them have dropped off on the map before, things like that. So if the middle of the pack ROX, they've improved enough where they can just apply enough pressure from behind, I think we easily go to a round 7.
Yeah, I think it definitely could happen. Terracotta Twister does seem to be the key, though, and it's crazy how many mistakes we have seen this season in particular, especially to the latter half of the season that we didn't see in preseason 1. I think as tensions get high, as we get towards the end of the season, teams trying to make some really aggressive builds, messing up a few times, and I hope we'll see some cleaner play today.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, we begin the lower bracket finals. Speed mode for team match. We go to mine 3 shortcuts. And they are off. We'll take a look if ROX can take the lead first with their track pick, or if KWANGDONGFREECS will continue. Now, they don't have as strong of a start because Ding holding on to that first place right away.
As he does, Ding is the guy who's going to be super powerful if he can hold on to this first place lead. It buys so many points for his squad here. Is going to have to contest with Cool up in the front lines right now, who's actually looking for some very aggressive hitters. As Spell, they're going to take the brunt of that.
Just a nice little block. Now, Spell has been putting on good pressure, and that actually opened up Duzzi to be able to join Ding up front. So KWANGDONGFREECS not in their usual position of having a clear 1-2. However, this is a 3-lapper. A lot of things can still happen. We can see on the minimap, however, World is so far behind that we might start looking at Seongnam ROX and saying they're thinking, okay, 8th place is locked in for KWANGDONGFREECS.
Yeah, I think for KWANGDONGFREECS, you're really feeling like the 1-2 win condition is going to be your best bet here, as there's still a lot of race left to play as we move into the second lap here. Cool. Let's see how defensively he can block Ding, because the numbers game is definitely not in their favor right now. He's actually created a nice gap here for Spear, but he himself is going to have to make sure he doesn't get past, because 1-2 is still that best win condition with World. Look how far behind he is, even of Spell.
Yeah, I mean, right now, 3, 4, 5, 6. So all pressure on Cool, like you mentioned. Well, sure, Spear, you put Spear in first position, but there's 4 members of ROX right behind you, and Ding is starting to put the pressure on. I love that Ding waited until lap 3 to start doing this.
Yeah, and this is where the most critical lap is, right? Ding has the ability to use some of that Team Nitro also to pass, and this is looking pretty good as well. Spear!
Ding loses all speed, and Spear just completely knocks him out. Now still the 2, 3, 4 for Seongnam ROX. Can they keep it together? No, they're actually going to boost forward. JJONG and Spell will overtake. So despite pushing Ding to 8th place, it is going to be Seongnam ROX taking track 1.
That was such a weird gambit, but I really liked it. It didn't work out. Seongnam ROX will take the win with that huge deficit, but Spear decided he was going to sacrifice himself to actually not only assassinate Ding, essentially push him back to 8th so that they would lose a ton of that momentum and points, but he was also hoping to get a bunch of disruption there so they would actually just barely win. But it came at the cost of all momentum, all control, and then they just used their nitros and pass. So Spear has done crazy plays like this in the past that have worked out, and I love his sweeping, I love his defensive setups, but this one, unfortunately, wasn't going to be successful. And I think things looked pretty doomed when they were starting to lose control of the 1-2. You got to try something risky, but I love to see the try.
Yeah.
But ROX will take the win.
Yeah, I mean, you can't blame him, right? Like you said, if you're already losing the 1-2 and that was your only win condition, you have to now play aggressive. And Spear's been that gambit player. He's been that wild card, you know, kind of flying off the wall here for KWANGDONGFREECS. SUNGBIN usually the more kind of consistent sweeper on that team. However, as you mentioned, Seongnam ROX, they seemed quite aware of it. The other players just skirting around it on that shortcut, taking a wider turn, and they will be able to actually overtake the 1-2. And it just goes to show that Seongnam ROX also, they were clearly waiting, you know, until that 3rd lap, as we have a review requested here.
Oh no, this is when we find out that Spear's sick play was actually like some sort of weird accident. I'm like, no, Spear, he actually had a sick play, man. It was 4D chess when he was trying there. It was definitely not an issue with the track.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, of course, you know, even though it is still just a preseason, a lot on the line, a lot of prize money, still a lot of reputation here. Single elimination in the playoffs, so you know, going through this review, we'll see if it can be quickly resolved.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to it, I mean, Seongnam ROX, I will say, in their position, waiting, Ding not putting the pressure on until that 3rd lap, right? So just kind of keeping them at bay and saying, okay, give first place, we can take 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, that was actually really cool to see. Just knowing the timing of that and not trying to use their resources early, but still challenging the entire way. That's the kind of stuff that comes from a team that actually has a ton of experience, and they really have proven that they are a top contender here, especially in preseason 2, right? In preseason 1, we knew the speed was good, the item needed a lot of work, but I would say that while they did improve their item, they've doubly improved their speed. I mean, they are up there now with the top teams, Live Sandbox, ROX, Aura. in terms of that. Sensation as well, which I think deserves a nice mention. I think their item mode was what got them to postseason more than anything else, but we will let you guys know as soon as we have an update on what the review is here, as we're getting close to checking it out ourselves on our screens.
Yeah, it does look like they are going to be reviewing that segment, but we'll wait until the official notice here. Obviously, we're not quite sure exactly what the request was for either, so we'll await the decision here from the admin team. Meanwhile, we will just have to wait for those who are just joining right now. We just barely finished round one, the first track of speed mode in this team match lower bracket finals.
Exactly. It's to be an issue with Spear, to give you guys the main information that we know, which is that's about it. But we'll be zooming in on him and what went down here, as we have SUNGBIN fan here.
SUNGBIN and
the
Eugene's fan. Yeah. Eugene's one of the popular K-pop girl groups. Of course, if you follow your Korean TikTok memes, then you will know that they have a lot of popular memes and a lot of popular songs.
Yeah. So just a weird collision with Spear's cart is what's being reviewed right now. But it looks pretty normal to me. But we will let you guys know what the refs decide once we do, in fact, have that confirmation, as he did drop back actually pretty significantly at the end. Obviously, it looked like for us, from our perspective, he was making a really heroic play, and I think that was definitely part of it. But he did drop back to 6th place, and the 1-2-3 finish for ROX did come through. ROX seemed like they're taking the pause pretty positively here. I think they're pretty confident that they won the track, and also it's early on in the series, so you're not feeling the fatigue of, okay, we're going to 7. You know, it's getting deep into the series. It's still early days here.
Well, that was also a thing on the camera, right? So he's probably like, you know what? I wouldn't mind going again, so I can get first place. I got knocked all the way down to 8th place. But of course, we'll have to wait for the decision. But like, I'm glad you mentioned that. It's also just that first round. So all the players saying, all right, you know what? Let's clear things up. Let's make sure that we're playing, you know, as fair of a race as we possibly can manage here. Of course, you know, regardless of what the cause was, what we did see during the live race was that Ding took the brunt of it. I mean, he couldn't recover. He actually dropped into the lava, had to reset, and so eventually it was up to his teammates who had to get back into the race. And we are awaiting an update. It does look like an update will be coming up soon here.
Yeah, it definitely does. We have eyes on the lobby, and the review process seems to be complete.
Yeah, just waiting for the official update. We'll wait until complete confirmation. We're getting some updates on our end, but we want to make sure that it's all finalized and that the players are, of course, all aware of what's happening before we're able to share with you guys. So.
Yeah, the referee is going to finalize the decision and give it to the 2 teams in just a moment.
Yeah, the referee does have a lot of people they need to tell, right?
Yeah.
They got to tell the players, the teams, the coaches, us, the Korean caster, and the production. So we'll have to wait for that.
Yeah. The issue in question is a bounce, basically, of Spear's cart body off of a airborne. Like, he landed on a bump at a weird angle, and so that seems to be the review in question. And the review process seems to be done, so I think we're in the notification process now of telling the teams what the decision is, and or the deciding process. Then once that is finalized, then the teams will be told, and then we will be told, and then you guys will be told. That's that's the chain of command here.
Yeah, we're not at the top either. We are waiting for updates, but it does look like a lot of the players are trying to warm themselves back up. So it looks like no matter what the decision was, the match we will return to the match itself. Of course, a lot of fans here. I mean, a lot of KWANGDONG fans, they want to see them return again, continue that rivalry with Live Sandbox, despite not having looked as strong here in Preseason 2. Meanwhile, I mean, if you're a Seongnam ROX fan, how long you've waited for this moment to try to get to the Grand Finals and re-challenge Live Sandbox?
No, exactly. This is such a really huge moment for the org. I think an org that is so storied across multiple esports, but has really... It's been a while since they've left their mark and gone to a big major finals like this, so would love to see them be able to do it if they are able to succeed. We have a lot of racing left to to happen before we can have that discussion. But a great start here, even if this is replayed. I think the way that we saw them handle that first track was fantastic. So looks like the teams are in the process of being notified just based on what I'm seeing on camera here. They're looking at somebody who's telling them things.
Yeah, they're all
that person is probably the referee.
All awaiting that confirmation. Now, I will say, you know, even if we were to go back, in terms of game plan, it did look like Seongnam ROX had a much clearer game plan. So unless KWANGDONGFREECS was able to get, like, you know, 3 players or 4 players, all of them up front, it looked like it was going to be tough. Of course, there was that earlier crash right on, like, track 1 or 2 that sent, you know, 2 of the players all the way back, including World. So, yes, that was rough for KWANGDONGFREECS. However, overall, I mean, it was just very clear. Seongnam ROX is like, okay, we have the win in the bag until lap 3. Like, we don't have to worry about it until lap 3. So even if we were to go back, if you're a Seongnam ROX fan, I think the game plan absolutely, we can see why they picked it, I guess I should say.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And we don't know why World dropped back so deep, because we didn't actually get a real replay of it, but it looked like he just fell behind early and then tried to make an aggressive play and maybe had an awkward collision. But him being so far back was actually a huge problem. So from my understanding, this all happened with KWANGDONGFREECS requesting a review, and now that the review process of the replay itself is happening, now ROX would like to review what is being discussed, because it looks like until this moment they didn't really know. So now I think they're reviewing the footage to see, to get their take on it. So it looks like it's going to take a little bit longer, guys, but I did see, you can see on the players' monitors, the Mine 3 shortcuts track was loaded up. So if that's a hint, I guess it seems likely that we are going to replay, but it's not officially decided until ROX will review. So bear with us a little bit longer. I liked the game plan. I liked the clutch plays we saw. I think Spear, I think there was some intent in what he was trying to do there as well. You know, there was a bit of a unusual circumstance that happened, let's say, but either way, it was a great first track, and I'm sure it'll be great again.
I love the way you put it as soon as the match ended. Regardless of how intended it was or not, quite frankly, that was their best win condition.
yeah, no, I mean,
that state of the race.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, like, kind of, you know, I use terms from other games as well, because Kart Rider is a racing game, right? Obviously, Kart Rider Drift follows that, but the assassination, like, is what it really looked like, because he just completely not only pulled Ding back to 8th to disrupt that amount of points that ROX had, but also was able to actually maybe then set up for some of those KWANGDONGFREECS players to actually pass in those final 500 meters. Ultimately, it didn't work. And ultimately, as we know now, might not have been 100% intentional, but it did seem like a cool plan at the time, and it definitely almost was what they needed.
Yeah, so we will just wait. For anyone wondering, we actually have an additional factor because the review was taking some time. One of the players has gone to the bathroom, so that is, of course, very, very important. Unless we're continuing the matches right away. So we'll have to wait on both ends. But as you mentioned earlier, Wolf, of course, if a review request comes through, the other team has a chance to counter-review it as well, because otherwise it wouldn't be fair. You would always just get your own way. So we will just wait for final confirmation and a decision.
Yeah, it's both. Usually these replays aren't shown to both teams initially, because then it can become like a shouting match of like, no, actually I'm right. So usually the referee independently will do their own investigation first, and then the team that doesn't have the information, the team that didn't request the review, will get a chance to review it. Looks like headsets slowly getting put back on here. I don't know who went to the restroom, but it is officially going to be replayed. We just got the update.
All right, yeah, officially a replay set back to square one, 0-0 scoreline, just waiting on all the players to get ready. Of course, as we mentioned earlier, one of the players did ask to go to the restroom during this review, which I think is all fair and square. So once everyone is reset up, we will be ready to go.
Yeah, Feliz from the ROX coaching staff. Finalizing something with the refs there, but once the player returns from the washroom, we will be jumping right back into it. So thank you guys for your patience, as you want to make sure you have the most competitive integrity possible, the best outcome, no errors, no weird unintended consequences of weird interactions. Just want to make sure that this does go down.
Yeah. Here's an interesting question while we await, as it does look like they want to find, just reconfirm a couple things. Do you think there's a difference between restrooms, washrooms, and bathrooms?
I would say to me, colloquially, no. I think that when someone says I'm going to go to the washroom or the bathroom or the restroom, they all mean the same thing to me. Although sometimes I find that if someone says restroom, it may be more polite to say that, but it also could imply it's cleaner than the bathroom. Like bathroom, I feel like sometimes could imply it's a little bit less clean to me.
It's interesting you say that, because for me, as soon as I posed the question, I realized I actually think I only use the term bathroom if it's like in a house.
Okay.
Like somebody's house.
Well, I mean, that's usually the only place that has a bath in it as well, if you think about it.
Oh, you are correct. You're correct. Maybe that's where it's coming from. Yeah. I just realized anytime I'm in public, I will always say restroom or sometimes washroom. So just something that came up because for those of you who don't know, we're communicating with our producer, and they were using the term washroom, and I kept saying restroom, and I was like, I wonder why we keep using different terms, but just a little interesting thought. Of course, I mean, most of it is just different origins there.
We do have very clean restrooms here.
We do, actually.
At our arena.
Yeah, we have dedicated restrooms, and guess what, ladies and gentlemen? We are getting ready for a rematch, so we will be starting the best of 7 fresh here on Mine 3 Shortcuts. Well, welcome back in time. It's as if nothing happened. Seongnam ROX versus KWANGDONGFREECS. Lower bracket finals, score 0-0.
Ding once again in the lead. Cool World at the back. So not fully deja vu, but the start here is similar. ROX once again having that key start here, but it's not quite the same deficit that they had last time. KWANGDONGFREECS, a much more competitive one here. Spell.
Oh, yeah. I mean, lots of collisions again. I mean, that corner right there, last time too, in the first and second lap, it's providing a lot of pressure, a lot of players, it looks like, wanting to apply that pressure. Once again, World is far, far behind. He is not in draft range yet to try to catch back up to the rest of the pack.
Now, at least this time, Cool's top 6, so it's not like a double whammy like they had last time around. Still competitive here. They don't absolutely need the 1-2, but right now it's 1-2, or rather 1-3-4, excuse me, for ROX. They are massively in the lead here. As
JJONG gets
pushed
bumped into the lava. They bumped in the air. JJONG was trying to just add more pressure, but SUNGBIN this time flies up, unable to make that. And we've seen racers talk about how you have to boost around those shortcuts, which is why a lot of teams actually avoided this track for the longest time.
Oh yeah, it gets crazy. The chaos here is insane sometimes. So that was a bit of a scary jump cut there. It looks like Spell won't get pushed too far back, but he did have that rear collision there.
Yeah, and Spear trying to cut things too close, actually lands on the bridge, but loses speed off of that jump.
Spell, I mean, he's going to take that risky enter there, and he's actually going to hold on the bridge, and that's actually massive, because this third, fourth battle right now is basically the decider, essentially, here right now. Also 7th and 8th, which we are keeping a close eye on. 300 meters to go here. Ding in first. ROX just 1 point ahead.
Yeah, Spell, he just overtakes it on the last jump, and it is going to be the 1-3-4 finish here for Seongnam ROX. And you can just see, I mean, Duzzi, Ding, everyone much more confident this time. Ding, once again, just able to keep that first place. Of course, last time he got bumped off through an accident, but he just proves again, I am that person who always gets a podium finish in these team speed matches.
Yeah. You can see some sheepish grins here saying, we did it again,
We'll do it again.
Yeah, we'll do it again. As even some hand gestures were given to the fans there as well. Looked like, I didn't know exactly what gesture it was, but it almost looked like it was 2. We won it twice.
I thought it was like the tribute signal from the Hunger Games.
Yeah, it also looked like that as well. Like, I'm not really sure what the reference is there, but I actually was like, was it a 2 or was it the Hunger Games thing?
Yeah, but 2 would be pretty funny. I mean, but this one, I would say, if anything, was even cleaner, right? I mean, just on their own merit. And, man, Spell, very impressive on that first track. And ladies and gentlemen, we have no time to waste. We got potentially 7 tracks on speed and another 7 on item mode. So we go right into the next one. It's Desert Construction Chaos.
off we go. Seongnam ROX winning the rematch. And Ding, once again here on our second round with a fantastic start. But World, even better, his best of the 3 we've seen so far.
Yeah, and here's the thing is that when they played yesterday for KWANGDONGFREECS, they got that 1-2-3-4 finish. It was World finishing in first, but man, that time they didn't have Ding always messing things up in the top 4. Duzzi slowing down just a bit to maintain his boost and also trying to just block a little bit, do a little bit of sweeping.
Yeah, Ding, #1 in terms of speed finishes for those who weren't here for our little pre-show segment for these 2 teams. Spell, wow, he has just recovered from these collisions. It feels like they're trying to assassinate him or push him into the wall or just create chaos for him, and he just isn't going to be staggered by it. He's just going to actually walk it off every time. Now, Duzzi and Cool here in the back of the race. Very close battle between those as well.
And Ding and SUNGBIN as well. You can see there were some mind games going on through those 90-degree turns, but Ding able to still recover, maintain his boost. Now, SUNGBIN does have double team boost. He's going to try to overtake here off of the jump, and he will successfully do so. But of course, everyone bunching up again as we enter lap 2.
Right now, JJONG and Duzzi very far behind, and the 1-2 is still a proper win condition here for KWANGDONGFREECS in our final lap right now. But we're gonna have to see how good the defensive play is going to be here for World as they're moving to the part of the track here, the first third, where it's easy to pass. But man, Spear, he's doing such a great job. This is what he's fantastic at.
Yeah, and right now, SUNGBIN's able to just constantly stack up these team boosts. It's going to be so hard to try to overtake him. And you can see Seongnam ROX, they're desperately trying to fill as many team boosts as they can. They finally get a double, but now we're entering the construction area where you can't quite boost to your will.
Yeah, this is really hard. This is why it's called construction chaos, excuse me, as Spell trying to push in the first place here. This would actually really shift things up here, but it's really Ding and JJONG at the back. That's the big problem for ROX. And they do not have a 1-2 setup unless SUNGBIN makes a mistake.
Yeah, Spell maintained his boost trying to overtake it. SUNGBIN just correctly stopped blocking him and completely in the way. Now double team boost for both players, but Spell overtakes. He bumps against the wall to try to find a better angle. He actually cuts a bit too much on that final jump. However, can they get enough points? No, it's going to be the 4-5-6 held by KWANGDONGFREECS. And now we are tied 1-1 in this best of 7.
Yeah, it looked like what Spell wanted to do there was actually hit SUNGBIN either before the jump or in midair so that maybe they could get the 1-2 there because the gap was pretty high between them and World. But ultimately, those 7th and 8th place finishes really did ROX in. So Seongnam ROX will drop this second track, and Construction Chaos continues to be such a dominant track here for KWANGDONGFREECS. Not the perfect 1-2-3-4 this time around, but they will tie us up.
Yeah, I mean, that puts them at 5-0 this preseason too on Construction Chaos. On a map like that, on a track like that, that is very impressive. That's something that if they did move on into the grand finals, they can really use to their advantage in the map draft. And that, of course, ties them up 1-1 as well. We're looking at the second lap here, the latter part where KWANGDONGFREECS Cool actually battling both Ding and JJONG for a little bit here.
Oh, wow, yeah, he actually set up multiple collisions there and really helped.
Wow. Yeah, just pressure.
Oh, wow, that's all you could say.
Yeah, he blocks them the first time, and then they're pressured to consistently try to keep their speed going to the 90-degree turns. And he just says, I'll just watch you make your own mistakes, and is able to overtake them once again.
Cool has just been such a consistent player here, William. I mean, in both individuals as well as Team League.
Absolutely. Well, now who's going to take the lead as we go to track 3? It's WKC Brazil Circuit. And the race begins. A bit of a wider track after the first 2 chaotic ones. We'll see if Seongnam ROX can regain the lead.
Spell here, battling with Cool. Ooh, that was so close to colliding with those tires there. That would have been really unfortunate. Still, will drop back to 5th place here as once again KWANGDONGFREECS with a fantastic start. World and Cool with their top players. Ooh. Oh, and Ding as well.
Yeah, lots of collisions on these shortcuts. And we just noticed in that first part of the track, I mean, Seongnam ROX, they kept trying to avoid each other to try to make sure they can continue their own cuts just to build up that boost gauge. And it wasn't working out well, but now they're able to maintain a little bit more consistency with the 2-3-4.
Now, Cool is going to have to actually pass here, and this is going to get really tricky because he's outnumbered. Now, SUNGBIN is going to come over here and also help create some disruption, but they need a pass here in the middle of the pack. Otherwise, ROX in full control right now. SUNGBIN and Spear down at 6th and 7th. And Spear at the bottom really means he can't use his sweeper role very well. He's been so critical for KWANGDONGFREECS.
Yeah.
but not when he's in 7th.
Yeah, and Ding with a great build through that second or last shortcut there is able to come right back up to the top 2, top 3 positions. Duzzi supporting right behind. However, it's the KWANGDONG who are bunched up together. If they can find a moment to overtake at once against Duzzi, things could flip very easily.
Yeah, we talked about how critical Ding is for ROX, but I feel like Spell has been a close second this series so far. He's just been so important. And right now it's neck and neck here. World and SUNGBIN actually pushing their way back into the middle of the pack here. 2nd and 3rd is such a critical spot right now. And actually with World moving up to top 3, KWANGDONG in control as we get to the end of this track.
Yeah, and I don't know what happened in that first shortcut, but Duzzi actually took the wider track this time. We actually see Spell falling into the grass too early as well, and Seongnam ROX, they lose all control of this track. Ding is still fighting for first place, but is it going to be enough? They're trying to set up. They're trying to find a better line through the shortcuts. Ding's trying to cut through all the grass, and KWANGDONGFREECS, they just block him out.
Yeah, just a complete block here as they go for the Hail Mary. It's not going to work, and KWANGDONGFREECS will take a 2-1 lead here with the 1-2 finish. And yeah, things got really chaotic there on the track pick of Seongnam ROX. I mean, they actually had this one in their hands, and then one big push from SUNGBIN, and then they were all off on the grass. They couldn't actually build boost there. They were really just falling apart at the seams, and looked like KWANGDONGFREECS' defense was much stronger there. And even though that final push did end up getting them 3-4-5, it's the 1-2 finish that does KWANGDONG move to 2-1.
Yeah, I mean, Seongnam ROX, it definitely looked like they had that idea that, okay, in that last shortcut, we can still find this build where we all cut across the grass if we just keep our boost gauges filled up. And the idea was there, but like you said, they weren't able to hold on to first place for Ding. And Duzzi, I mean, even on that first shortcut in the second lap, he takes the track instead of the grass. And sure, if you have the boost gauges to really continue to fill up for the rest of the team, for team boost, maybe, but the timing didn't really seem to work out for the team.
Now we're moving to Glacier Extreme Stadium, which I think is, once again, a fantastic track for KWANGDONGFREECS here. And then it's that Terracotta Twister. So we're really heating up here, and things could end very quickly in speed if they can't bounce back.
Absolutely. 2-1 lead for KWANGDONGFREECS. Let's see if they can get to set point as we go to Glacier Extreme Stadium.
Off we go on Glacier Extreme Stadium. Both of these teams with a fantastic 80% plus win rate on this track. KWANGDONGFREECS leading in the series and also leading here in lap 1.
Yeah, now, uncharacteristically, Ding not able to get that strong start that he normally does. He's towards the latter part, in fact, sitting in 8th place. And when we've seen him fall down there, he hasn't actually been the best at overtaking. He's best at keeping the lead. So now it's up to JJONG to try to bring home that win here on this track.
Yeah, really important for him and Spell here right now, as SUNGBIN is actually both pushing JJONG away, but then taking that aggressive inner, just really peeling himself off of Spell there. Spell will retake 2nd place as we go into our first set of hairpin turns here. This is where you separate the top teams from the bottom teams on this track, and both of these teams are, of course, in our lower bracket finals. They're both fantastic. It's not going to make a huge impact on this first lap, but it will probably be the deciding factor of the second.
Yeah, we did see Duzzi try to basically bump Spear off on that last jump, but Spear able to just maintain his momentum. He lands safely, and that actually pushes Duzzi all the way back down to 8th place, now battling World. Meanwhile, at the front, it's just Spell alone. Ding is a little bit ways behind, but the draft coming up. Spell now overtaking first as well.
Yeah, ROX here starting to actually get into a good spot here if they can maintain this, especially with World dropping back massively again in 8th place, just not able to catch up, taking some risky builds and getting punished for it. That's not necessarily enough for ROX to win this, but it does give them an extra edge.
Yeah, as long as Seongnam ROX can block away the 1-2, which does seem likely, they have a massive advantage with World locked in for 8th place. Ding and Spell tried to go for an aggressive turn there. He's able to reconsider his options to land it back in 3rd place. JJONG and Spell now, can they block off the opponents together? They should have no problem. In fact, Spell going to overtake Cool as well. Oh no! Spear boost forward alongside Cool, but it's not going to be enough points with Ding finishing in 1st place.
Ding taking 1st and World taking 8th is sometimes just all you need to actually have enough points there, even with a final push like that. KWANGDONGFREECS really needed the 1-2 to finish this one off. They're unable to do so. So back to back, we actually have teams winning on their opponent's map selection there. So now we're tied up again as we move into Terracotta Twister. Crazy how close this series has been so far. Not only in obviously our overall score being 2-2, but also how close each of these tracks has looked.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, we haven't had any clear wins yet in the first 4 tracks. And, you know, Wolf, as we suspected, it might really come down to Terracotta Twister. Whoever wins this might be able to carry the momentum forward, as this one, I mean, it does favor both of them in terms of their styles.
Yeah, it really does. I think it's also very difficult to catch up on this track oftentimes, but you know, we've seen teams fail trying to do so, taking really risky inners or trying to take aggressive builds and falling off the track, and a mistake like that can cost you everything. Just ask World, you know, he's had a rough one so far this series.
Yeah, he hasn't been able to recover. Let's see if he can get a better start this time as we go to round 5 on World Tour Terracotta Twister. And they're off. KWANGDONGFREECS with a slightly stronger start this time, but Ding once again proving that he is that top finisher in average speed.
Yeah, so SUNGBIN and Spear here with World, actually, they have top 3 right now, and this is actually really important for KWANGDONG. They actually have top 4 as well. And if you can hold this going into the inner part of this track, that's when you feel really confident. They actually have a pretty massive lead right now between themselves and JJONG, who's currently occupying 3rd, and Cool's going to, you know, constantly make it difficult for him to catch up. But now we're moving to that inner portion. Let's see if any errors are made here, because this is when things get a little bit crazy.
Yeah, Duzzi losing a lot of speed, just trying to put pressure on the Cool, but we actually see Spear, who does fall off the track. Meanwhile, JJONG barely able to recover off of that bump, and this puts SUNGBIN all the way in first place. However, it actually puts the rest of Seongnam ROX into the 2-3-4 positions.
Yeah, I mean, Cool really lost a ton of momentum trying to sweep there, and his sweeping was completely unsuccessful. I mean, I get the idea, it's absolutely what you want to be doing, but he just completely whiffs it, and he loses all momentum, and now 2-3-4-5, and ROX in a fantastic position here, and SUNGBIN, he's the only one here pulling up the points for KWANGDONGFREECS right now.
Oh, not even. Ding overtakes him as the pack of Seongnam ROX run at him like a pack of wolves, drafting off of each other, and they're able to keep the momentum. Spear is recovering very well. He's coming back, but he's only able to put pressure on Dispel, and SUNGBIN's not even able to hold first. Meanwhile, another collision in the back pretty much locks up Spear all the way back down to 7th place, and now Duzzi, he's fallen behind as well.
Duzzi needs to actually get into 2nd here. They need the 1-2 now. That was crazy with that pileup. Just ruined everything that ROX had here in this final lap. Now there's just no passing anymore.
Yeah, Spell, he does have a chance. Maybe this team boost is going to be enough. No, it's not going to get him into draft range. And it does look like SUNGBIN maybe even able to just get the 2-3-4. Spell, if he can hold on to 4th place, it should be enough. He's actually going to...
Oh, no! What?
He gets the second as well?
How does that even happen?
I mean, he didn't even need to, quite frankly, because of the later standings. But, man, just because he wasn't sure, I mean, look at that focus we just saw from here.
Yeah.
He says, I mean, sure, we can win right now, but I don't know if I'll be overtaken, so I might as well just go for the Hail Mary.
Yeah, it just felt like some really weird defensive setups there from KWANGDONGFREECS that, I mean, you're obviously trying to calculate a lot of things all at once there, but the way that they just let him get into 1-2, I mean, that's your biggest fear, especially when you're trying to calculate everything else. You've got that 8th place spot. I'd love to see a replay of what happened on the pileup as well, because that was, I'm not entirely sure if that was actually a proactive play from KWANGDONG or a mistake there, but ROX had full control until that moment, and they were still able to take it back, even when KWANGDONG ended up getting 2-3-4 there, and it looked like they were potentially going to win the track. And then some great heroics there from ROX again to actually win this one and bring us to match point. What a crazy track. I cannot believe they won with 1-2, though. I'm still trying to accept it.
Yeah, that was not the way any of us thought this track would end. But I guess no time for replays because we got more tracks to get through. We are getting ready for round 6. KWANGDONGFREECS' pick on Zigzag Timberland.
Seongnam ROX now on set point here, 3-2. 1 win away from winning speed mode here, but KWANGDONGFREECS for the better start on our 6th round.
Yeah, this is the typical KWANGDONGFREECS start, but let's remember, this is how it started on Terracotta Twister as well. And one racer I have my eyes on right now, Shari's in 7th place, but Spell has been doing a lot of work for Seongnam ROX today.
Yeah. On this narrow track, though, he has not been able to close the gap too much just yet here. Is just trying to, World, another mistake here. World having an uncharacteristically weak performance here tonight on a match that's so critical, so important. They might not be willing to put this guy in an ace match tonight if he's playing like this.
Exactly. If it gets even to that point, I mean, maybe even Seongnam ROX, if they're able to beat them in the speed mode, they might even find the momentum going into item. Of course, now on this track, the 1-2 does seem to be quite far ahead here for Kwangdong.
Yeah, it is looking pretty massive, even with a mistake from World there. Spell does move up to that third place like you were saying, but he's even cut off here by Spear. And when Spear's in 3 with a 1-2, you know it feels pretty doomed. He is just such a great sweeper, and he's doing exactly that right now here as we're about to crest the end of this first lap.
Oh yeah, and he's trying to make sure he can block as many racers as possible. So he lets JJONG pass because he doesn't want to try aggressively against Sim and make too much way. Now Ding will find the opening on the right side of the track, overtaking Spear, using that draft on the jump, but Ding blocks him once again.
Yeah, they really need to get somebody into that top 2 spot here, and that's what JJONG is pushing for right now. Spear actually drafting off them, looking for another collision here. Great avoid there by JJONG. However, Spear just going to constantly push him, and that was a sick turnaround.
Jeez, I mean, Spear has been really managing these two players from Seongnam ROX so well. In fact, him not always being ahead of them is working out in a sense because it's not giving them any drafts to work off of either. So if Cool and SUNGBIN, as long as they don't make mistakes, JJONG really doesn't have a way to catch up.
Exactly, and it just feels like Spear is rotating on purpose like this, so he can go back and both threaten JJONG and Ding and stay out of draft range, and the gap is just so large as you saw on the map there. One final push here, but that's not what you're looking for. I think this is going to 7.
Absolutely. I mean, JJONG, even if he's able to break into the top 2 right now, the point gap is just too much. Now, Spell is here, but at the end of the day, if the 1-2 crosses the finish line, it's not going to mean anything, and JJONG, he will try until the bitter end, but it is going to be KWANGDONGFREECS returning to form as Cool and SUNGBIN cross the finish line and take us to track 7.
And of the 6, or technically 7 tracks we've played so far, I feel like that was the most dominant win we had of any of them. And that was KWANGDONGFREECS getting their 1-2 and getting Spear there. And in Preseason 1, it was like this every single time for Kwangdong. Doesn't matter who's top 2, whether it's Cool, it's World, not relevant. Spear, though, he's in 3rd or 4th. And he's always sweeping, and I think Spear was such a huge part of why Kwangdong ended up taking their first preseason. And now, track record with the amount of defense he had, no surprise on my end here that SUNGBIN is able to take it, but Zigzag Timberland felt like old Kwangdong, felt like the Kwangdong we saw win that first preseason.
Yeah, I mean, Spear playing just so smart, not playing too aggressive, not giving them the drafts that they would want, and only starting to play defense on those hairpins where the draft's not going to give them as much of an advantage. I mean, just a very, very wise player. Now, this brings us the question, Wolf, of did Seongnam ROX have confidence in this last track? They picked it. It was one of the tracks left, and they said, if push comes to shove, we want to take you on a factory facility bot.
Yeah, this is wild because this track is rare. It is a crazy one-lapper. Anything could happen here. It's going to be what decides our first speed set.
Absolutely. This is round 7 on Factory Facility 5. Tied 3-3, the last track begins in speed mode of this lower bracket final team match. Ding and World contesting for first place on this one-lapper.
A lot of teams haven't fully figured out the builds on this track just yet because it is so uncommon. It's pretty rare to see in pro play, and it also has a lot of weird terrain and stuff like this where you are going up on these high grounds. You can also take the lower ground. And yeah, that's not exactly what Cool was looking for there. But it's a one-lap track, so you don't get a second chance at any of these turns. And having an early lead is massive, but I think this is one of the tracks that gives you the most chances to actually catch up as well.
Yeah, I mean, considering that, yes, there are a lot of turns that can be difficult, it's also not always as narrow as you would imagine some of these other tracks, like Zigzag Timberland we had previously. So Ding continuing to still contest. However, we got to see Spell catch back up because JJONG and Duzzi, they are way far behind.
Yeah, I mean, this is looking like a 1-2 or nothing here for ROX at the moment. Ding is still able to take first here for the moment. See the shortcut here going over that gap. It's so critical. You don't want to take the longer one there as, yeah, the gap is just so huge at this point. I mean, if JJONG can't get into second, then it looks like this is all over, but the Cryan
Yeah, and SUNGBIN does have a nice block against JJONG as well. So this time it's SUNGBIN tasked with the same role that Spear had in the previous track. And Ding, he tries to go for a reset there, but he's actually going to get boxed out of even the podium finish. And is it going to be the comeback win from the KWANGDONG It's actually going to be a perfect, just as KWANGDONG always wanted to wrap things up. They say the first tracks didn't matter. At the end of the day, the Speed Demons will be ourselves. The reigning champions of the preseason, it's KWANGDONG.
KWANGDONG in 7 will bring us the speed win.
Wow.
And last time these teams met up, we mentioned this earlier before the speed started, it went 5 and then it went 5 again and was decided by Ace. And maybe again tonight, we do see this go the full distance. We also saw KWANGDONG versus Aura, and the last time they faced off against each other go the full distance as well. Like that losers final we had for preseason 1 was incredibly close, incredibly long, and it just feels like this is going to be another one of those nights, William, where the best team will win, but you're really going to know it. You know, it's not going to be one team didn't show up today. It's going to be both teams showed up every single track.
Absolutely. And of course, on the side of Seongnam ROX, we will have the item ace swap in here. Planzy will be coming in. Spell, he showed a great race on Team Speed Mode, but alas, couldn't show too much force on Facility 5, eventually giving that track over to the KWANGDONG. Now, will their item ace Planzy bring them that victory once again that they desperately want to go to that ace match?
Yeah, that's the question, because both of these teams went 0-4 in their items in the postseason thus far. In the previous series, had to win it through aces. So while KWANGDONG does have an extra leg to stand on here, if it goes poorly for them in items here, for Seongnam ROX, you're not looking at this team going, well, this team crushes an item right now over KWANGDONG. Both of these teams are pretty good at item, but when in these high-stake matches, they haven't delivered thus far.
Yeah, I mean, neither of them really have a lot of tracks where they can confidently boast that we always win this track, right? They're kind of 50-50 across the board here. So the picks as well, we saw it, in their previous matches, they picked similar tracks. Once again, there wasn't too much contention. They all want to go to the similar tracks in the first 4, and then a little bit of adjustment in the tracks that are left in the last 3.
Yeah. Tons of fans here in the arena tonight. This is such an important matchup. Winner goes to the finals.
Absolutely. Let's find out if Seongnam ROX can tie things up for the ace match. We start the item mode on Mine Magma Cavern. Item mode begins, and all eyes on Seongnam ROX's Planzy, as he is that dedicated item ace to come in and try to lead this team to victory.
We're going to go for the double start here. Ding will eat that UFO, and now World and SUNGBIN actually leading the charge, but it's item mode. Don't pay too much attention to the first lap standings. More about the item inventories here, as JJONG will pick up an Angel here early. And that may mean that he's just going to, after he eats this UFO, he's going to go to the back and play supporter here so he can hold that item for his team later on.
Yeah, and so many water bombs, which can do a lot of damage on this track. I mean, I would say maybe even 75% of it quite susceptible like we see here. Yeah, and this is why you see a lot of the racers trying to skirt on the edges on these narrow areas, but then you might get bumped off into the magma. So a lot of things to consider. Now, something we noticed from Seongnam ROX in yesterday's match was they occasionally use the lightning bolts early for tempo, and that's an item we see a lot of teams just try to hold until the very end. So curious, because Planzy currently with a Guardian Angel and, of course, the lightning bolts as well.
Yeah, and for Ding here, having the magnet and actually now EMP, he actually could look for a magnet rush combo here if that's what he wants to do. We can pick up a Nitro. We'll just use the magnet for tempo here on the second lap, as he wants to try to get it ahead and then be able to eat that UFO if he gets the opportunity. But now the gap is quite wide, and they have a shield on World. It will be burned, picks up another one. No Angel just yet here for World if they're going to try to use him with a huge advantage. You can see on the track map there that he's ahead, but he's constantly getting attacked, so that lead isn't going to last forever.
Yeah, and then the UFO as well eventually will be able to regain control of his car, but currently we have double boost for Duzzi as well. That can come in real huge because there's no real way to block that other than potential water bombs, and oh my gosh, a 4-man water bomb across both teams. Now everyone bunched up towards the latter part of lap 3.
This is so close, but the Lightning is actually going to play a huge factor here. JJONG going to get the pass there through that late Lightning pickup.
Yeah,
now he's got Magnet Angel.
Yeah, he dodges all the water bombs, and he will spin across the finish line. And Seongnam ROX, they use the lightning bolts early. They cycle through for another, and they're able to keep the tempo, setting up JJONG for success.
Really close there. It looked like World, he just didn't shield one of those water bombs, and then after he got hit by that one, he just got hit by repeatedly several, with the rest of his teammates all kind of bunched up in that choke point. You mentioned it, how strong water bombs are on this track. But I feel like he could have shielded that first one. I'm not sure if it was a weird thing with the UI where he didn't actually have the shield or what happened there, but he had a shield in his inventory. He didn't use it, and then they lost control. Then obviously the Lightning was really one of the huge critical factors of why ROX was able to push into first place.
Yeah, and again, not saving that just for the end in case, maybe in a Guardian Angel, an Angel Shield comes out. They just constantly use it whenever they see the opportunity for tempo, because if you use it, maybe you get another one as well, which is exactly what happened for Seongnam ROX. Love this new idea around the Lightning Bolts, not relying too much on it like a crutch, gives them the 1-0 lead.
Yeah. Very great start here for ROX. They need this to push it to an ace match.
See if they can make it a clean sweep, even as they're leading 1-0 in item mode. We go to round 2 on Sphinx's Riddle.
Track 2 here for item mode is Sphinx's Riddle. Seongnam ROX leading 1-0. You can see the track win rate here. Neither of these teams extremely dominant on any of these item tracks.
Yeah, and this was Seongnam ROX's pick. Of course, they were slightly more confident, but they already won the first track, which was KWANGDONGFREECS' pick. So off to a better start, already one step closer to that ace match.
Yeah, I think the 0-4 for both teams in items might lead people to believe, oh, it's going to be another 4-0 here. I actually think for me, it makes it feel more likely we're going to 7. I feel like it's going to happen.
Yeah, very, very likely. I mean, again, this is not the strongest suit, and if speed mode was that close, considering how confident they both are, we got to assume item mode probably on similar standing against each other in terms of relativity. And now we do see JJONG. He's actually going to dodge the water bomb and the barricade, so he's able to hold on to that Angel Shield. So something that Seongnam ROX can count on towards the latter part of this race.
JJONG has a shield here, and of course has an Angel now. He wishes he picked up that second shield just a second before, would have allowed him to block that balloon, but having the Angel is going to be huge for his team. They actually have 2 stacked, as Lightning will be picked up here for Worlds. Let's see if they want to use it now or save it for that timing.
I mean, you gotta imagine, you have to start to consider, do we just draw out these Angel Shields, right? Because if there's 2 on the other side, and you just want to say, okay, well, we want to maybe even set up for something like the missiles, so whatever that can help us get across that finish line. But it looks like for now, just wants to add that pressure, just wants to say. Now, one thing you can consider is if you have the Lightning Bolt, and if they're saving Angel Shields, they're actually also not able to cycle through more items as well.
Especially when you have the lead that we have for KWANGDONGFREECS, or at least had until I started talking about it. The advantage they had there meant that they could actually just try to use it for tempo at the final moments, and then defensively when the Angels come out to push, you actually then can use it more aggressively. And now Duzzi up in first will be caught here. A bit of a spin out as Plansy moves ahead with Magnet Rush in hand here in this final lap. As long as he's not targeted by a bunch of items here, he might be okay. The Wisp is going to catch him, of course. Second one is going to be traded, but he's got a pretty nice spot here to actually make that final push.
Yeah, absolutely. And double boost for Duzzi as well. Ding with a boost of his own as well. And the Angel Shields and the EMPs is going to be good enough. Yes, it is. Eventually, it is Plansy with that Magnet Rush you mentioned. So his teammates boost forward, he's able to magnet forward, and then the reset comes in from his teammate to not drag him further behind. And Plansy with the clean finish. Seongnam ROX, they had it in their hand all along, and now they lead 2-0.
Yeah, the fact that Lightning wasn't used to take away one of those Angels kind of played a part in this, because obviously they could just counteract it in that final push on top of the Magnet pulled through with the Nitro, is how ROX are able to take this. So you get a combo like that, and unfortunately, as you mentioned, both not pulling away the Angel early, but also just not having extra items in your inventory to then disrupt the players who are looking for that combo at the end. Really comes back to bite KWANGDONG, and ROX do look better prepared here for item tonight.
Yeah, I mean, they seem to just have their own understanding of the current meta, kind of taking an off tempo that a lot of teams are used to right now around the Lightning Bolts, around the Angel Shield. So curious to see if that can carry them to a perfect sweep. of course, currently leading 2-0. However, they will need this item mode win as they lost speed mode 4-3.
Indeed. So loading it up now, almost got everybody into the next track. I mean, if this goes to ROX, it'd be 7 item modes in a row here in postseason for Kwangdong they've lost.
That would be massive. We'll see if Seongnam ROX can deliver that blow as we go to Desert Pharaoh's Pass. Once again, we are off, and as we continue to point out, item mode not the strongest suit, just another 50% win rate on both sides for this track specifically. So not a strong confidence boost on either side, and another 3-lapper as well, we should mention.
Barricades coming out early for both of these teams on this track. You don't know necessarily if you want to be using those early. You might actually cause more harm than good here, as finally, when they get control, we see those barricades get traded out, actually stacked on top of each other here. As Kwangdong get ahead, they're like, okay, we can barricade here. Some of them are like, oh, they're getting ahead, we better barricade here. And they both get dropped down. And now, as the dust settles here, World actually building a pretty significant lead. He does have a shield here, so if he can actually just cycle through to additional ones, he's going to feel pretty good about his chances of getting one of those tempo advantages here early.
Absolutely. I mean, the Angel Shield for SUNGBIN as well. So the Lightning Bolt was just used, and it's just going to be World with his own shield to cycle through that. The Angel Shield being saved up. So Lightning Bolt not doing the mission that Seongnam ROX wanted in taking out that Angel Shield for the tempo reset.
So we very rarely see these strategies succeed where you have the one person push off with extra defense here. With double shields locked in, World can block this next attack, and he actually had teammates buying a ton of time for him, so that even though he's used both of his shields and will get UFO'd here, the lead is pretty great, and while SUNGBIN is actually now blocking JJONG out, it becomes very difficult to even target him with items. Once you get such a lead, you can't even really be targeted outside of UFOs, and World is in that position right now. You see the magnet come through, but he's just so far ahead. He's also got an EMP as well.
Yeah, I mean, personal shield, he can use it just to cycle through. He gets a banana for his troubles, but Angel Shield on SUNGBIN to protect him. The EMP, like you mentioned, I mean, and no UFOs being spotted right now on the side of Seongnam ROX. There's just one on the side of KWANGDONGFREECS. You mentioned it. This might be a situation where World is able to just carry himself all the way through. He finally gets caught up, gets targeted, and he didn't have any more shields left.
Yeah, he was just holding on to those UFO EMPs, and unfortunately, that's not going to be good against the rest of the items. And JJONG taking the lead here. 500 meters to go.
Yeah, but we do have a boost on Plan Z as well. He's actually going to get locked up by a Water Wisp, and JJONG held back by the Magnet as well. Puts World back across the finish line. And KWANGDONGFREECS will not go down so easily in the item mode. They finally reset with a round win.
Yeah, the loss streak is broken here. Took 6 item tracks in postseason, but on the 7th, they will not go quietly into that good night. And it is with a really nice final timing there with the magnet. They're able to pull their opponents back there. And World will be the one to cross the finish line first. And you can see how close it was, just a half a second between him and JJONG, but the timing was really nice. And maybe Kwangdong can use this as a momentum swinger here to actually bring it back, because still, ROX looking very good thus far, and it was much closer than it looked like it was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's very clear that Seongnam ROX has a very solid idea as soon as they enter the track of, okay, this is how we want to win this track. However, that can also be a double-edged sword. So if KWANGDONGFREECS starts to get a better read on what the setup is here early on from Seongnam ROX, they can try to set up a bit of a curveball. We'll see if that happens again as we go into round 4. This is Seongnam ROX's pick on Cogwheel Crush.
All right, round 4 underway. KWANGDONGFREECS bringing it back 1-2 now here. Another win in a row would give them the 2-2 scoreline. The loss streak is broken. And Cool, once again leading the pack here, will have the shield and EMP. So we've got an opportunity to be that front runner again here.
Yeah, I mean, he should be fairly safe for the most part, continuing to be able to cycle through those shields as well as he cycles through his items. This time it's the shield, he saves the EMP. Just going to see a massive water bomb try to lock up some of the players of Seongnam ROX.
Yeah, unfortunately just not enough time to avoid those at that speed. So even though it was right before them, they both end up crashing right into it. Is Cool will pick up a banana here, not exactly what he was looking for. We'll see if he can hit anybody with it. The answer is no.
Yeah, not going to find too much success. Quite a wide section of that track. Now we get ready for the shortcut, but no one's going to be able to enter it in time. Maybe we'll see World be able to enter it towards the end here alongside Clancy as they try to catch up to the rest of the pack.
Double lightning here for ROX is a pretty huge boon for them, and I'd recommend using one now, or not necessarily right now exactly, but very soon, because if they are able to get tempo advantage here, that's going to be massive for them. If you hold it till the end, the stack of the lightnings becomes a lot weaker, and who knows, some angels could be picked up before then, but they are going to hold it. They're just not in position to really get a tempo advantage with those lightnings at the end, or rather the push advantage there at the end. Tempo, I think, is much stronger here.
Yeah, they're constantly trying to bait out this shield from World. They eventually get it out of him, and he will have to cycle through now a boost and a water whisk to boot. Cool still holding on to the shield, though, so still the double lightning bolts will be ready to go. They're going to try to find a timing in between the angel shield and the individual shields as well.
Yeah, I mean, now they're in a position to where they have so many members up here at the front that they could actually use both to get the win, but we're running out of track here now, so timing has to be critical if you're just holding these in your inventory. Let's see exactly how they want to use this. Ding now moving into first. There is an angel for Spear.
Yeah, it's going to be that one angel, and right now we do have the boost on World and SUNGBIN as well, so Seongnam ROX have to be very aware of this. They're going to want to try to stop the boost, but will they get the timing that they want? But it's actually going to be KWANGDONGFREECS with their own lightning bolt. They are able to stop the items from coming out, and the shield comes out for World. The magnet's not enough, and Seongnam ROX, they just wait too long with the super play. Gives too much of an opening, and KWANGDONGFREECS will cross the finish line.
Yeah, you wait that long, and it's just a boost and an angel to the finish line, and you're like, thanks for wasting, you know, the lightning into my defensive ability. I feel like there was a bit of a shot calling error there on the side of ROX, because I think the tools they had and where they were, because they had like 3 players in top 4 for a while there. If you use it there, you have 3 in 1, 2, 3. Then you use it a second time towards the finish line. It doesn't matter how many boosts they have or how many defensive items they have. They're going to have to force the way through with attacks, and their inventories are going to have to be swapped. They could have actually had a moment there, I think, at the beginning of the second lap to really push ahead and change the entire pace of the track. Instead, they waited for that final timing. Wasn't good enough.
Yeah, and honestly, props to KWANGDONGFREECS. They use their own lightning bolt as soon as they get it to disrupt that item timing coming out from the Seongnam ROX. Because you got to imagine, I think Seongnam ROX just thinking, okay, well, we draw one shield and then we stop the boost in the middle of its track. However, they were shocked up first, and so KWANGDONGFREECS take the initiative. We are tied 2-2 in item mode, and we're trying to see if KWANGDONGFREECS can get the lead here in item mode as we go to Mushroom Caves. Tied up 2-2. KWANGDONGFREECS looking for the comeback once again, as they did in speed mode.
Mushroom Caves always gets kind of funny with how narrow that first item pickup is. If you miss it, you kind of have to wait and then grab it on the return after they come back. So that's what we saw there. As Spear does have double shield here in the opening lap, and will actually continue to cycle those through and could start to build a big gap up for himself.
Yeah, some decent water bombs already coming out. This is another one of those where not as much as we see. I do believe that
just
was
used an angel for that.
Yeah, okay, just trying to keep that tempo. Now, it is just a 2-lapper, but a fair number of item blocks in the middle. So Seongnam ROX perhaps just looking to constantly cycle through, find a better opening here.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just because of the lead here for Spear that they feel like they need to get that tempo, but it's going to really hurt later on. This is not really the combo-oriented track, as you mentioned, but still, does feel bad that you have to waste that one early. Don't know if you necessarily had to, but you chose to, as Duzzi going to look for a bit of a boost here to catch up to Spear, and actually now has some wisps to track him down. One shielded, of course, the EMP is going to use Spear. Now, going to get caught by lightning.
Okay, so everything for tempo right now. Seongnam ROX is trying to equalize things, and they will succeed in doing so. The good news for them is it's not exactly like Spear had a lot of items saved up for the finish. So right now, it's anybody's game.
Yeah, it really is. Top 3 here for ROX, denying some items as well, actually, there. And Ding, he's got a magnet, so if he actually can just maintain top 3 here, he has a great win condition. On the other side, World, nothing in his pocket, just a shield here. Not going to be enough. They need another item here.
And SUNGBIN probably in the best position to try to overtake with that boost. The Lightning on the side of Pool as well. However, a couple Magnus on the side of Seongnam ROX. Can they try to bring back the members of Kwangdong Freaks?
Comes Ding here, 500 meters to go. He takes the right side so he can't be hit by any big AoE attacks. And now has the opportunity to just magnet his way through. Has Wisp too. Lightning to deny though.
But the Magnets try to hold back World, but it's EMP'd. And in fact, it's going to be SUNGBIN who boosts forward on the left as well. And Kwangdong Freaks, they overtake Seongnam ROX once again, but I would say a step earlier this time in item mode as they lead 3-2.
It was a 2-0 start for ROX, but ever since that third track, Kwangdong have really had a massive tempo advantage. Now on match point to rematch Live Sandbox in the grand finals of Preseason 2 to maybe be back-to-back solo champions of our preseasons here for Kartrider Drift League. What a huge turnaround. We might not see an ace match tonight, William, if this continues. It's just been dominance here. And after the first two tracks, I was really worried. I was like, well, Kwangdong just don't have it in them for item. They focused on speed, and it's going to have to be a solo win. World's having an off day. It could be ROX for the upset. But now the pendulum has swung back completely the other way. And what could be our deciding track is Shark's Wake, a track with not a ton of strategy. It's just all about those items and getting tempo advantages.
Yeah, you gotta cycle through her as much as you can. We'll see if Seongnam ROX finds what they want on round 6, Shark's Wake.
Round 6 here of item mode. Seongnam ROX versus Kwangdong Freeks. Kwangdong Freeks on match point. They were the victors of speed in 7 tracks, and if they win this, the series is over. They're going to the finals.
Yeah, they'll look to rematch Live Sandbox, try to get that back-to-back preseason championship here in the KDL, something that they would gladly lift over their heads. And once again, it's going to be cool keeping the lead here in lap 1.
Only Ding here up in top 4 right now. Does have a rocket here. World has a shield, but will also spin out as we're getting very, very neck and neck here for the side of Kwangdong Freeks. I mean, Ding and Duzzi were very close by. JJONG's pushing up here as well. It's Shark's Wake, man. It's just going to be a lot of items all the time.
Yeah, everything's getting thrown out. But something that I'm starting to notice, and maybe, you know, it's a step too late for Seongnam ROX, is that because they're not able to keep that lead early, Kwangdong Freaks is also able to block them out from getting those items, right? So they have to keep waiting for the items to respawn, and then they're just not in position to overtake in that last lap.
Yeah, and the cart builds for Kwangdong Freeks, something we didn't talk about, they actually changed it up a little bit here. They're going for more of that speed tempo rather than the boost tempo, and this is actually starting to really be a problem here for ROX, especially in these early leads, where if you're unaffected by items for long enough, you start to build up at that additional max speed, and you, as you mentioned, take those items away. Now, finally, ROX are going to be able to get some tempo away here, and this is really important for them right now. The EMP is at the ready here for Ding. See if he can get a larger lead here, because if he has the defensive steps, okay, shield going to be used. Maybe he's going to be the one who could actually do it here and bring it to 7.
Yeah, EMP used to counter the UFO. Another one's going to come out, though, so Ding will be pulled back. Otherwise, we are quite even on the items. It's going to be Kwangdong Freeks with double. Never mind, double Angel Shield on both, except Duzzi, he holds on to both on his own. He's going to use one just to keep. Oh, and it's going to miss. And Duzzi now continuing to stay ahead. The UFO pulls him back for a little bit. SUNGBIN, he's back in front. He's got the Angel Shield and the boost on the side of World as well. Either of them could cross the finish line. Plansy, he's got the Magnet Rush. Can he fly forward? And he will jump in. He lands right across the finish line.
That, my friends, is item ace. That is the item ace of Seongnam ROX. Plansy, he threads the needle, comes up at the last possible second, has the magnet timing down pat. He's perfectly able to rocket forward there off of the ramp and pass at the last possible second where no one can hit him, no one can target him. That's what it means to be an item ace. ROX gonna bring us to a 7th and final track. I told you, William, it just felt like tonight we were going 7 to 7 to ace match potentially. Now this is only gonna happen if ROX can win that 7th and final track. Kwangdong Freeks still have speed advantage, but man, this could not be closer.
Yeah, I mean, Seongnam ROX trying to just make sure they can take it to the ace match just like they did during league play in the round robin stage, but I'm glad you pointed that out. The Magnet Rush, as simple as it sounds, the timing is so crucial in terms of how you use it and when you use it to draw them back.
You have to use it after this turn, and then you have to use the magnet to pull back, as you mentioned, and he used it at an angle there where he actually goes around the edge. No one can really hit him with water bombs, for example. There's not much of anything you can do to stop this guy, and what they needed to do, the only counterplay to this really, is to actually identify this player has Magnet Rush. We need to target him now before he gets around that corner. They couldn't do it, and now we're going to 7.
All right, round 7. It's match point for Kwangdong Freaks, but Seongnam ROX wants to take it to an ace match as we enter Mine Motherload. Tied 3-3 in item mode. Seongnam ROX, can they win it to take us to an ace match? We're keeping our eyes on the item ace, Seongnam ROX's Plansy.
SUNGBIN picks up 2 nitros here, is going to be able to use them to try to catch up here, using them for tempo, as you can see here. And Plansy up in the lead right now with after such a fantastic Magnet Rush play from track 6, and with a shield and an angel now as well picked up for Duzzi. They might just look for big advantages here early on this first lap. It's a 3-lap track, and oftentimes you do get caught up on, especially with the cart builds here for Kwangdong Freaks. They are going to be able to have longevity. This Cool will eventually be able to, just without items alone, catch up with him with max speed.
Yeah, so Seongnam ROX, they're doing everything they can to try to keep him at bay. Ding continuing to shoot forward. He still has another boost in hand as well. He can use that shield. He's going to dodge that missile. Gets hit by a second one. But as you mentioned, now the idea is, can you keep Cool back far enough so he doesn't gain that maximum speed?
Exactly. Now, he has a little bit less acceleration, so every time he is hit, the punishment is definitely there. But if you can build a big enough lead, like, oh, I was going to say he survives the jump. That's fantastic, but he didn't actually. Ultimately, in the end, we'll get the double spin back. Now it's up to World here, as otherwise ROX having pretty big tempo advantages everywhere. Ding just tosses out his magnet here. It will be traded with Cool's. It's actually Jong and Cool right now who do have magnets left, and Cool is the guy to watch right now for that final lap push if he can actually get into pole position.
Yeah, the UFO used early again just to deny that max speed. They don't want to use it as a reliance. Double lightning bolt for Ding as well. Seongnam ROX, they have an absolute buffet of items to use here in the third lap.
But they absolutely need to use it. Remember last time they had the double lightning, they failed to realize its potential and used it way too late. I want to say, I think it's starting to feel like they're using it too late here again. We're getting halfway through this final lap.
Yeah, you might as well start cycling through. Again, if you let Kwangdong Freaks gain that max speed, they will start to get ahead, just like World is doing now. He still has an Angel Shield along with Spear. He still has a Nitro boost as well.
You gotta toss this out. I mean, you don't have Magnet Rush anymore. Plansy is spinning out. He can't use this for extra speed.
Yeah, he's not gonna be able to target him just yet, and now Cool blocking it as well. The Angel Shield has to be used on the side of Seongnam ROX. Only 500 meters left. One Lightning Bolt used. The second one, but it's going to be shielded by SUNGBIN, and he's able to shoot forward. It's actually Cool who boosts forward as well, eating that aggro, and he will cross the finish line, giving the match win to the Kwangdong Freaks.
Kwangdong Freaks will do it again here. They will go to our preseason 2 finals here at the KDL, and it was off the back of much improved item mode here coming through. Both of these teams looking much better. It was very close, but it felt like, especially once we got past those first 2 tracks, ROX just were not able to compete with the cart builds that Kwangdong brought out, and they were not able to compete in terms of item usage when they were using their items. Yeah, Plansy did have that really heroic play in track 6, but otherwise, Kwangdong Freaks, they just looked like the much better team, even though it went to 7.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, again, it's those 2 tracks where Seongnam ROX had the double lightning bolts, and they just try to save it for a Hail Mary play, for a Wombo combo, and it does not find the impact that they were hoping for. And it's going to be the Kwangdong Freaks entering the grand finals for a rematch against Liv Sandbox to defend their title as preseason champions.
Although, I was going to say, well, the lack of celebration does give me pause.
Yeah.
Speaking of pause, we will have a little bit of a review here. Whenever you see a player looking at his teammates, somebody's rolling their eyes, you know, instead of actually celebrating that they're going to get that rematch against Liv Sandbox, you know that we will be taking a look at something else here. But
All right, well, we'll just have to wait as we did earlier. Now, we did already have one during the speed mode, that time from the Kwangdong Freaks. It did go through for a rematch, so this time, definitely a request coming in from Seongnam ROX.
Yeah. I'll let you guys know what ends up being reviewed, even though we may not be able to, will not be able to share it. We'll give you guys an update as...
Yeah, currently, of course, it's just the section of the review where the refs will be reviewing it on their own. We can see it just so we know what the progress looks like, but of course, we do not know the exact review process at the moment. Once the referees decide their decision, they will notify the opposing team. In this case, it will be Kwangdong Freaks, whether they just simply accept the review or if they request a counter review as well.
Yeah, I mean, for me, you know, regardless of what's happening here, I think there was just not a real improvement, or rather adaptation in terms of the lightning usage for ROX, which is ultimately probably what will be their demise here in this series. You know, you and I talked about it a lot on the cast. It felt like the way they utilize it there really made it so that you were just hard forced to try to make that magnet play work at the last possible second, and unfortunately, it really didn't work out. I mean, you didn't have the advantage you needed to. They had shields, and so it gave them too much time. I think if you use them earlier and stack them, then maybe Plansy actually gets an earlier opportunity. But, I mean, they wanted to play it their own style. They wanted to do it their own way. And it ultimately backfires a second time here in this series, but in the critical final game.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Wolf, I mean, I think the biggest demise here was hoping that the Lightning Bolt would just provide all value. But here's the other thing, like you mentioned, one thing that you'll notice if you're paying close attention to the item mode matches here in the KDL, the whole Magnet Rush combo, sure, sometimes it can be used to draw back your opponents, but the best way to use it is if you have a teammate in the lead. That way they can just reset so they don't pull you back even further, and then you slingshot forward. If you're using it on an opponent, you're hoping they don't have the EMP, you're hoping they don't get it in the last second. You have to rely on the fact that they're not too close to the finish line. There's just so many other factors that you would have to consider.
Yeah, sometimes you have the perfect Magnet Rush angle, like Plansy did in the 6th track, but oftentimes, like you said, there's too many other factors. And if you don't have control and you don't have a specific plan and you're just Hail Marrying it, as we saw there, chances are you're not going to find success. And I think that before the nerfs that we did see, like in Preseason 1, you could often just Hail Mary it, and sometimes we saw like 3 happening at once, and it's like, well, who's going to win? But since some of the changes to the item came through, it's much more niche now, and it has to have a lot more setup. So we were just reviewing something that happened with Plansy's cart, some collision, so we'll let you guys know as soon as the referees make a decision about it.
It does look like World is requesting that he sit on the floor and not the chair. I saw him get off his chair and asked the ref if he just motioned on the ground, so maybe he just wanted to stretch his legs
can we get that? Can we get that lower third replaced to floor sit requested?
Floor sit requested. I mean, hey, you know, if you sit a lot on the floor at home, maybe you're just more used to it. Obviously, not the best gaming posture, but
well, I think with headsets off, you know, he wants to be able to hear what is being said and wants to be kind of in the middle of his team rather than being on the edge, as he is actually the player who sits on the edge for his roster. The players in the middle obviously would be able to talk much easier. So I think that's probably what's really going on there, is those chairs do look very comfortable, to be honest. I'd rather sit in the chair than on the floor any day.
We're just seeing, of course, they're continuing to review, so we'll wait for the official update. And just so you are all aware of the process, if the referees, if the admin team decides to accept the review request, then they will give the chance to the opposing team to also agree or request a counter review. So then they'll look at the footage together. So we're just waiting for that first step right now, the admin team.
Yeah, and it's a really complex issue because the issue at hand appears to have happened on the first lap. So it's going to be one of those things that really has to review a lot, because the impact it made is definitely there if the referees decide that, even if it is on the first lap. But that's definitely going to be in your considerations, because oftentimes in item mode, the third lap is the one you're really looking at. It's not like a final push issue or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, especially when this would have been, I mean, this was going to be set point for either team and obviously match for KWANGDONG Freaks. You now have to consider the impact itself after you decide whether there really was an issue or not. So, you know, obviously they're going through everything they can to make sure the most proper decision is made. Just waiting for that. It does look like KWANGDONG Freaks just trying to stay in the zone. Should they have to go through another race here, they want to make sure that they're ready for it, that they're not, you know, too loosened up or too out of the zone, too out of focus, all keeping their headsets on as well. Meanwhile, Seongnam ROX, maybe they're like me. My ears really heat up if I keep headsets on for too long. Yeah.
For me, like, maybe I wear my headset too tight or something, but sometimes it like pulls on my hair if I'm wearing it for too long.
Wow.
And then when I take it off, if I like touch the part of my hair where the bridge goes across, like it feels a little sensitive.
Oh, really?
But usually I don't notice until after I take it off. Like when I'm in the zone, when I'm gaming, I don't know. But when I take it off, that's when I realize. So you take it off for just a second, you're like, ooh, I'm just gonna keep that off for a minute.
Yeah, of course, all the players, their headsets are for the noise canceling plus the microphone. For anyone wondering, if you're wondering why there's so many cables, basically pretty much all professional esports, that is the setup, right? So you've got earbuds for your in-game music or in-game noise, and then also your comms audio, and then you put those headsets over you. They have basically sound isolation on their own, and then there's white noise being pumped through, and then you've got the microphone for comms. Recently at another event, I just got to play test on stage during rehearsal, so I've never really done it like in an actual setting when you're playing a game. Obviously, I've tried them on just to see what it looks like and what it feels like. And yeah, they're effective. They're definitely effective.
No, I mean, absolutely. The technology that's in place and the amount of experience that we've had to actually work on these since basically the Brood War days, you know, since a long, long time ago, it's been, you know, kind of honed to make sure that, you know, you're really in the zone, you have no outside influence whatsoever. Oftentimes the same kind of headsets that you'd wear as like a helicopter pilot, just to make sure your ears are protected. So.
Yeah.
So discussion is still in progress. We do not actually have the official decision. It seems like the referees are still discussing amongst themselves of what they think the conclusion should be. And you know, from what we've seen as well, it does seem to be a pretty tricky one. It's not a simple issue. It's not a open and closed case. So we will let you guys know. We may end up needing a little bit more time. So bear with us as this is, as mentioned, literally whether Kwangdong goes to the finals right now or not, or if we go to an ace match. So it is literally the most important review of the season. I know we've had a lot of reviews this season, but this one is the review.
Oh, absolutely. And here's the thing is also, again, we're in the preseason, right? So, you know, going for these reviews, whether it's, you know, to review the actual rules and make sure all the players and teams are aware of exactly where they stand, and then the admins as well to say, hey, this is exactly what these rule means. And then, of course, the game itself, make sure there aren't any errors. And also just this process, right, to make sure that everything is stable and ready to go. So I'm glad we're able to go through these motions to make sure that the league is in a good place. But like you said, sure, preseason or not, such an important track. I mean, let alone match, right? That decides whether we potentially go to the ace match, whether Seongnam ROX can finally get to that grand finals for once, or does Kwangdong Freaks try to defend their title once again?
Just to tell you everything we know, this is the final track of Item, potentially. I mean, we may have a rematch, but this was track 7. Kwangdong Freaks did win in the initial iteration of the track, but in the first lap, there was a unusual collision for Planzy that is being investigated. So in the first lap, there was a weird issue that was requested a review. So that's what the referees are looking at right now and investigating whether or not the collision that was experienced by Planzy is normal or not. And once we have that decision made, which it's been a kind of contentious decision actually amongst our referees, once that is decided, then Kwangdong will be told, and then Seongnam ROX will be able to appeal potentially the decision. So that's where we're at right now. We're clapping. We're hoping it's going to get resolved as soon as possible.
Yeah, Ding's a good teammate because, of course, Spell on the left here has been sitting out for the item mode as well. So Ding's just trying to keep him occupied. So what they were playing just there, by the way, is a variation of rock, paper, scissors. I know some other cultures have it as well, but in Korea, there is a variation where you like play rock, paper, scissors, and then the winner gets to basically challenge you. But hey, looks like we do have final confirmation. I am going to believe the graphics as they are going out, and everyone can read at home as well. So it does look like Kwangdong Freaks will be taking that victory. No rematch will be issued. The review will not be accepted after discussion from the admin team. And Kwangdong Freaks, they move on to the grand finals from the lower bracket to once again defend their title as preseason champions.
That's right. The victory will stand, as you say, William. So You know, we were right in everything we said. They will have an opportunity to defend their title against Live Sandbox. And for ROX, at the end of the season, but what a massive improvement this squad did make. A team that came in as one of the weaker item mode teams, but had a decent speed to being a fantastic speed team. Item mode massively improved. Bring Kwangdong to 7-7 again. Defending champions, mind you. Fantastic finish in regular season as well. And I am looking forward to seeing what this org is going to do in seasons beyond.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at the score, that just means one track goes the other way. We could have even had a 2-0 for Seongnam ROX, right? So it's really hard to say that Kwangdong Freaks smashed him. I mean, Seongnam ROX put up a great fight. In fact, they were leading in both item and speed mode just by a hair's edge. However, they kept running out of steam in the last couple of tracks, and it's going to be the Kwangdong Freaks who showed just a tad bit more consistency and focus to cross the finish line, so to speak, and avoid the ace match going to the grand finals.
One of the advantages, you know, a lot of people will debate this issue for all time, but one of the advantages I think you can have as a team that goes through the lower bracket is that you're actually more warmed up. Some of your issues you may have had are identified, and I think Kwangdong Freaks, especially after going 0-4 to then 4-3 here, their item mode growth is going to be massive before they go to the finals against Live Sandbox, who've just been kind of sitting up there after their win in the upper bracket finals against ROX, who struggled in item, right? So how much did Live Sandbox learn from ROX versus what Kwangdong learned from losing and to Sensation in item and then barely beating ROX in item? That's some extra momentum I think that Kwangdong Freaks will have going to that finals on Sunday.
Yeah, because speed mode, of course, they should be going in much more confident against Live Sandbox. As great as a team as Live Sandbox is, Kwangdong Freaks, no roster changes, always has been speed demons. And, you know, we took a little bit of a different path than preseason one, but we come back to the same conclusion. It is still a rivalry between the Kwangdong Freaks and Live Sandbox.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like ROX and Aura, you could draw lines across like what both of these two teams did in the first few preseason postseasons, right? And that being that challenger to the pro teams, but ultimately falling a little bit short. Both of them just barely not able to actually make it to that grand finals. But I think that both ROX and Aura proved that they are very strong teams and very strong contenders, especially here in the second preseason. And as much as I am excited for the rematch here, I don't think that necessarily we move into future seasons. It is just going to be Live Sandbox versus Kwangdong every time. I think that we're getting closer and closer to potentially challenging those top two spots.
Yeah, exactly. Those two teams did not look as dominant as they did in preseason one. I mean, both of them, right? Even including Live Sandbox, despite the roster changes. Sure, they're looking better and better, but every team's improving. I mean, Sensation, they got knocked out early last preseason. They come back even stronger after a slight roster rebuild. So this does look very promising for the regular season, but alas, for preseason, we await the rematch. But we're not done for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We still have to pick 4 more players in solos to enter the final 8. You can see the roster down below. We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, it is going to be the final round of 16 solo match.
next to mine. Baby, let me take you on a ride.